Something really interesting about India is that they sell most of their coffee locally. And the reason that they sell most of their coffee locally is because they mostly grow Robusta. And they don't really struggle at all to sell it because it's companies like Nestle and Unilever, like it's being sold to instant coffee suppliers.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 3 of our 5-part series where we're talking about World Coffee Conference in India this past couple of weeks. And we're also talking about this emerging market that is the Indian coffee market. Now, we say emerging, but India has a long, long history of growing coffee. It is one of the biggest Robusta markets in the world, and it is emerging with regards to the way that they are viewing growing coffee. With me for this series is Yousef Alzayer from Saudi Arabia, and Yousef was at World Coffee Conference with me, and we decided we have to do a series about what we experienced. Now, Yousef, India is a unique market for a lot of reasons. Yeah. Why don't you give people an understanding? Like before World Coffee Conference, I went and visited Komal and Akshay's farm and also Punacha's farms, and I was like mind blown. This was my second Origin trip. The week before I went there was my first Origin trip to Hawaii, which are both pretty like not standard. They're not usually the places people go to Origin. It's usually somewhere in Latin America or in Africa.
Two different sceneries though.
Completely different, right? So give people a kind of a brief on what Origin is like in India.
So it depends where you're going, okay? Mm-hmm. So now I visited two areas, two different cities. So I did Coorg and I did Chikmagalur. Coorg is more of the large, like open farm, not a lot of hills, mainly flat. It's about 1,000 meters above sea level. And it's like large farms.
Yeah.
Or fairly large. Because then actually will be like, well, mine is not large. I'm just kidding. But it is very different. Yeah. It's more like a foresty style.
Yeah. Amazing.
Farm. It is amazing. It's, it's lovely. It rains a lot, humid, and it has a lot of shades.
Yeah.
Comparing to other origins.
Yeah.
But then when I went to Chikmagalur, that was a bit different. That was more of at 1,200, 1,400, 1,500 meters above sea level. It's more of a hilly one. It's also forest-like, but it has more mud. Like when it rains, so like you will have to be careful going up and down.
Yeah, wow.
It is quite different.
And you were at Himu's farm when you were there.
Yeah. Krishna.
Shout out to Himu.
Yeah, he was a great host.
Legend.
And, he kept telling me, like, tell Akshay, buddy, come to the mountains.
So when you look at the farms that were in Chikmagalur, what was the elevation and the incline, was that the main difference between the ones in Coorg?
I would say yes.
Okay.
And the style of planting is different because,
right.
Well, of course, because it's a higher elevation, it's going to ripen later, right?
Right.
Because
so
that's one. So you will have the
different
ripen
harvest
timing
times.
differently. You will have the more hilly side of it. A bit harder to maintain because you have coffees that are growing like in a steeper areas, so you would probably not touch those, or you'll have hard time touching them. And it is exposed to different environment.
Do they grow mostly Arabica or Robusta in Chikmagalur?
From the farm I visited, was mainly Arabicas because that's the only farm I visited. Right. I passed by a lot of few farms, but it was Himu's farm was Arabicas mainly.
So, folks, something really interesting about India is that they sell most of their coffee locally. And the reason that they sell most of their coffee locally is because they mostly grow Robusta. And they don't really struggle at all to sell it because it's companies like Nestle and Unilever, like it's being sold to instant coffee suppliers.
Yeah.
Folks, our first on-demand workshop, How to Become a Coffee Consultant, is now available for you to learn at your own pace for just €50, and it comes with a certificate upon completion. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for more details. Support this podcast by supporting our sponsors.
So the coffee, because it sells for the C market price locally, very quickly, commercial grade.
At a high price.
Right.
It's quite high. You know why?
Why?
Well, one of the reasons is because they have 100% importing
tax
duties or tax on importing green beans from outside, because it's part of their, I guess, to protect the economy,
their market, right?
Yeah, their market. So growers mainly sell and focus on the Indian market.
Well, there is that's the other thing I was going to say, is that they have such a high consuming, like every cafe that you speak to, every roaster that you speak to, they're roasting Indian coffee. A Starbucks, which is co-owned by Tata, majority owned by Tata over there, boasts that it only serves Indian coffee. So it's a selling point. They position it as a selling point, but the reality of it is it's prohibitive for them to use any other coffees because of the duties and taxes that they have to pay to import those coffees. So it's very, very interesting.
But I also think that the general population of India is proud. They're proud people of their own product. Yeah. I think the culture in general, like, we grow this. I've been doing this for 4th generation.
Yeah.
I said, like Shravan, he was selling he was using his own coffees at his roastery. He was not selling abroad. I think he sells to other people, but he still supply his roastery, and he's proud about it. He's happy. Like he was a very passionate person to speak about his espresso, and he was making it to us.
Right.
Even though that first brew was bad. And then when he tasted it, he was like, that was a bad coffee. But he was
the second one was fantastic, Shravan.
Yeah.
You bastard. I can't believe you said that. He's going to kill you when he sees you.
No, I'm glad when he drank it, he's like, dude, that's a bad coffee. Bring it. But we came into him like right when he was setting up his booth. Like he was that bus ride. Dude, that was after the bus ride.
That was, so what Yousef is referring to there is that there was a lockdown because there was what's called a bund, a strike that was happening. And so we had a police escort from our hotel to the convention because there was supposed to be some protests. And because we were part of the G20 and we were delegates and et cetera, they had police escorts. The funniest thing was we had a military police inside the bus, and he was sitting behind Yousef, and he kept asking everyone for selfies. It was so fantastic. The cop was asking everybody if he could take a selfie with us. It was really fantastic.
Yeah, and then we did take a selfie. That was a funny one.
Yeah. So
but yeah, we went to Shravan after that. And then it was like, oh, dude, like, you're here. I haven't started, but I'll make you something. So that was nice.
And we went back the next day. Exceptional coffee. Like, the beautiful thing is how proud everybody is of what they're doing. They're trying to do better. Mukul is a 5th generation or 6th generation coffee producer. He didn't know anything when he came into it. And he was telling me when we spent some time talking how deeply passionate he is about everything that he's doing now. Like, and that was something that I found really beautiful. Like, nobody's doing this just to strip pick and sell their coffee. None of the people that we were hanging out with. So no one from South India Coffee Company, Himo, Mukul, like none of the people that we were around were actually just doing this because this is something that they have to do to make money. They're all passionate about driving the industry forward and looking for new ways to invent really good opportunities for great coffee to be exported.
And I think they have the infrastructure and they have the know-how.
100%.
I think it's going to be with the people we saw and how passionate they are about their market and the coffee and their stories. I think it will be heard very soon in the specialty world overseas.
Oh yeah, you'll hear it on this podcast because Charles Dennison, Dr. Aaron Davis, and South India Coffee Co., they're all coming together to really, really drive a lot of research and drive a lot of the publishing of papers and open source information. And they're going to come and talk about it on this podcast. So keep your eye out for those people coming on this podcast to make announcements and to give us an insight into what's coming up, because it is very, very exciting what's happening in India with regards to the research. The government is really getting behind the research. They're not waiting for certain organizations that won't be mentioned to fund all of these kinds of things. In your experience, Yousef, do you find that the market is going to stay Robusta heavy, or do you think that there's going to be this shift towards all of these new varieties?
I think the market has to shift.
Right.
Eventually it will shift, because you can't be dependent on one just variety species and think it will stay with you forever, I mean, Arabica came after crossbreeding between two different things.
Right.
So the market will evolve. I think Robusta will make a scene everywhere because
continue. Yeah. There's a lot of marketing money going behind governments pushing that.
Well, I'm speaking especially about the specialty market, and the Robusta is usually it's a taboo topic. It's earthy, it's bitter. I mean, all of that could be changed with the new processes, right? Because all you need to do is to find the right chemical component that there in the bean that's producing that bad note that you don't like, and find a way to remove it through processing. So you're a scientist, you know that.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Robusta will make a scene. I think Liberica and Excelsa will be a next thing coming up. I mean,
with grafting as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Grafting will help for sure. Well, we're hoping, but I think it will definitely help because it's been proven in other fruits. So, and I think I'm not knowledgeable enough about that side. So I think it has worked in coffee before, but I don't know. I think Dr. Davis and Charles and actually could speak more about that because they're more into the planting side of it. But I think specialty coffee will become more interesting with different species. And then I don't think specialty coffee should be just only associated with Arabicas.
Right. And it's not just the species, it's the varieties within the species that are being discovered. And that there's a lot of work being put into finding, natural mutations. And it's very exciting. Like you go to South Indian Coffee Co. and they've got this special garden for species where they're trying, that have just naturally evolved, or they've grafted certain things. Another thing that I found when I compared the two different origin experiences, the thing that was very, very interesting to me in India was you'd walk into a shade grown crop of Robusta and it felt like you were like these really tall shade trees, it almost was like you were being protected by them. Like you're in some kind of a fairy tale and you're in this forest and it's filled with coffee trees and there's vegetation that's naturally growing around them, and overseeing the whole forest is these big shade trees that are just kind of towering over everything. It's kind of magical, isn't it?
Yeah, some of those trees are like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Like you look at the trunk and you're like, the trunk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so huge and it's just phenomenal. You look at it, it's like massive. Yeah. And it's amazing the way you look at the trees. Like, I love it's a indescribable experience.
It really is. And guys, if you get the chance to go. Like the generosity of the producers over there and the pride to show you what they have created over the last few hundred years of coffee is just wild. Go to our Instagram, mapitforward.coffee, and you can see in our highlights reels, you can see some really amazing not only Robusta farms, also Arabica farms, but what you do get to see is farms that are like really well kind of put together, and then you get to go into the jungle, and jungles that are owned by producers where everything's just kind of planted and left to kind of grow as it is around. Like you can't describe it. You just got to go and see it. You know, you walk through the jungle, you're covered in leeches, there's pepper trees everywhere because they co-plant. It's something spectacular to see. And even if you've been to Origin, if you haven't been to India, this is something that you've got to see. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, and it's a bit different. I visited Origins in Guatemala and El Salvador. It's very different.
Yeah.
It's one of a kind.
And the exciting part about it is that as you get this new generation of producers who are 5th and 6th generation, they really are leaning very heavily into specialty. And what you're starting to see is they are building a local economy for specialty consuming businesses, so roasteries and cafes. And this is where like you meet someone like Matt from Blue Takai and you get really, really excited about the future. And even Shravan, you get so excited about what they're building that it's just going to have a whole new kind of expression of specialty coffee, kind of similarly to what's happening in Dubai and Saudi with regards to specialty coffee. Because where you guys are starting and where India is starting is what it took us 30 years to build. So your starting point is kind of what we've done over 30 years, and you guys are going to take it in a whole different direction. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode, folks, is this emerging consumer market that's happening in India. So join us for that. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.